Hello and welcome to the Dance Yourself Brave show, where we get real about the struggles dancers face, from confidence battles to self-doubt, and how dance has the power to make us braver, stronger, and more unstoppable in every area of life. I'm your host, Mariana Santos, founder of Brazili Fitness. And whether you're a seasoned dancer, a dance instructor, dance lover, or someone who's always wanted to dance but feels a little intimidated to start, this show is for you. Expect honest conversations, inspiring stories, and simple ways to bring more dance into your life, whether that's in the studio, on stage, or right in your living room. And if you're a dance instructor, we've got you covered with tips on how to grow your dance business, attract more students, and create a bigger impact through your passion for movement. So if you're ready to step out of your comfort zone, own your movement, and dance yourself brave, let's do this. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dance Yourself Brave show. I'm so excited because I have Justin Tamsett here with me. Justin, thank you so much for being on the show. How are you doing this morning?
Well, g'day, Mariana. I am exceedingly well. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, thank you for being on the show. I know we've been wanting to do this for a while, so I'm super excited to chat. And just a little bit of a background, Justin has been in the fitness industry since 1988, doing every possible role, and is now a Rex Roundtable chair. He is Australia's most awarded industry business consultant and a leading international speaker, delivering keynote presentations in 24 countries. He has worked with some of the world's largest franchises, including Anytime Fitness, Lift Brands, and Plus Fitness, as well as independent mom and dad gyms. JT is also the owner of Mystery Shopping for fitness businesses. He is the founder of the Fitness Business Podcast, and he does all of this to reduce the healthcare costs across the globe by getting more people moving and moving more often. So thank you for, that's like a lot that you've brought to the industry. So I'm so excited to unpack all of that. So my first question is actually related to this last part. Okay. So you said that your goal is to get people moving and moving more often. So what role do you see dance fitness playing in achieving that mission, especially for people who might feel intimidated by traditional gyms?
Well, Mariana, dance people are very different to the rest of the population.
Are we? Really?
Well, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. Quite seriously, though, I don't think, my perspective, I don't think it matters how you move. You just need to move in order to improve your health.
I agree.
And I think one of the coolest things about the dance world is it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see many people in a Zumba class or in any sort of dance class grumpy, crying, dragging their bottom lip on the ground. They're all having fun. And my view is it doesn't matter whether someone wants to do CrossFit or Zumba, whether somebody wants to do high rocks or ballroom dancing. It's all moving, and we all move in our own way. And all of that movement leads to improving your health. What you have in your special little world is this coolest thing, which is fun.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of traditional exercisers who might go to gyms will tell you that going to the gym is not necessarily very much.
Mm-hmm.
It can be hard work. But we choose to go to the gym, but your people, your community choose to do dance. And I think just by doing that does improve their own health and will have an impact on the health of the community that they live in.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also because I've been a personal trainer and group fitness instructor for almost 21 years. And I remember when I started my career, I was one of the only female trainers at my gym, and most of the trainers were men. And I was the only one who also did group fitness. And they always said, it's not real exercise, and like people need to be strength training and all of this. And I was like, but how do you know? Like, maybe that's what people need to take that first step, right? Because it's fun, like you said, right? So it becomes part of their routine. They get familiar with the environment, they meet people, and then all of a sudden down the road, they're like, oh, maybe I can consider this weight training thing. right? But we kind of have to meet people where they're at. And I feel like as an industry, especially people who have this old school mentality of like only strength training, right? It kind of does more harm than good to help the average population.
And I think I got a funny feeling that the theme of this episode is going to be fun and community. I just
Yeah.
have a feeling. But, the way people dance and the different types of movement that you do and the different types of dance that's available to people, there is a degree of a body weight there. There
Mhm.
is a degree of stomping, which
Mhm.
will improve your hip strength, which reduces your chances of broken hips as you get older. There are numerous medical benefits. While you might not actually have to lift weights, there's still movement, there's still some body weight strength there. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's you play a critical part of getting people healthy in the world.
And I think we all can work together, right? Because people can
Totally.
start off in our Brazilian dance class, for example, and then I can refer them to the trainer who's like close by, right? And I think that if we have more of that sense of collaboration and not like pitting programs and things against each other, I think that we'd be in a better place as an industry.
Well, I think that's a really interesting issue that you raise right there and then, and that is that in our world we can't silo our members and we can't silo the activities. There has to be collaboration. There's got to
Mhm.
be collaboration between strength trainers and dance coaches or dance instructors and aerobics instructors. Do they still do aerobics? Group fitness
Yeah.
instructors. There has to be talking between all parties. We then add in another layer of the medical or allied health professionals. All of that group must collaborate for the greater benefit of our members and our customers. It's not a competition. It is about what can we do best for that person to get their results. And if that means they got to go to Stretch Lab and do assisted stretching once a week, that's what they got to do in additional to their dancing. If they got to do strength, that's additional. But it's not in competition. They supplement each other or they complement each other.
Yeah, I think that we have to get out of this like scarcity mindset in general, right? Like we
Oh,
think
yeah.
that, that the reality is that we're only helping about 20 max percent of the population these days, right? With all the different programs and
Hmm.
stuff. And still we have 80 to 90% of the population who's completely sedentary and who need our help, right? And we just need to realize that what we're doing is not actually helping them, right? And we've got to come together.
Mariana, I think one of the problems with that, and you're absolutely right, but one of the problems that we face in our industry, whatever part of the industry you fall into, whether it's Pilates, yoga, dance, gym, whatever, is we generally see the same people and they are generally kind of fit.
Hmm.
They're not too overweight. But when you go to a rock concert, or when you go shopping to the mall, or when you go to see a sporting game, and you see the greater population outside
Hmm.
of our exercise bubble community, then that's when you realize, shit, we do only have 21, 22% of the population that work
Hmm.
out. There's still so many people that don't. And
Hmm.
I think our responsibility is to be able to put in front of those people a modality that they like or they want to do. And I'm with you in some of the questions that I know we're going to cover off is that the dance is less intimidating for many people, probably more women than men,
Hmm.
but still it is less intimidating.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when you go into a completely different environment, that's when you realize. Because I remember when I first started my career, I think I was like 5 or 6 years into my career, and I was like, you know what, I want to do something different. And I started working at a restaurant as a hostess, and it was so interesting, like on like weekends, like once a week or something. And I realized like, wow, like people still smoke, like because my coworkers would go like for smoke breaks. I was like, wow, they're not talking about protein and creatine all day, and like. So it's so interesting because like yeah, when that's your world, you think that everyone's healthy,
Hmm.
everyone's working out, everyone watches their diet somewhat, and it's not the reality across the globe.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story that in June, I went to Fenway Park, home of the Boston Red Sox.
Hmm.
And the first time I'd been there, and I splurged, I bought some tickets not far from the dugout, and they were in the old traditional Fenway seats. So you're kind of sitting in these seats with this metal that kind of keeps you caught in there. And I
Hmm.
was thinking, like, I don't think I'm particularly overweight. I think I'm
Hmm.
reasonably fit. And I kind of squeezed in. I thought, holy moly, in 5 more years, the average American is not going to fit into these seats. So they're going to have to completely redesign Fenway and take out all these traditional seats in order for the average American to be able to sit there. And that's just one example.
Yeah,
So
airplanes, right? Like,
airplanes,
hmm.
nothing worse,
Hmm.
sitting on the aeroplane. But again, it's when you see the greater population, you realize, wow, there's so much opportunity for us, and how
Hmm.
can we position our dance classes to appeal to somebody who's never danced before or not
Hmm.
danced since they might have been a school kid, a
Hmm.
8, 9 year old little girl or little boy. Lots of kids dance. So how do we stimulate that again?
I love that. So, as chair of Rex roundtables, you're constantly exposed to challenges and breakthroughs that gym owners face. So, what advice would you give to dance fitness instructors who want to stand out and thrive in a competitive market, especially if they think it's competitive, right? And they still have that, scarcity mindset that we were talking about.
I think one of the keys for me is always why you do what you do.
Hmm.
And, I know we're going to talk again about that with me a little bit later,
Hmm.
but I think that separates every single dance instructor in Canada, in
Hmm.
North America, in the world. You'd be lucky to find the same person
Hmm.
who teaches dance for the same reason. And I think generally when we ask the question, people say, I'm really passionate about teaching dance. Okay, I get that you're passionate because that's why you do it. But can you tell me why you're passionate? Why did you start teaching dance? And you peel those layers of the onion back. And sometimes you've got to ask that why question 3, 4, or 5 times
Hmm.
until you get right down to the core of it. And it might be because, well, when I was growing up, I danced and I met a whole bunch of girlfriends and boyfriends that I've kept in touch with all my life. So I understand how important that dance community is. There's your why. I was a misfit at school. I didn't do sport. I didn't do drama. I wasn't into public speaking, but I found my niche, which was dancing, and it gave me joy. There's your why. Because both of those reasons are beyond being passionate about teaching
Hmm.
dance. So I think the key is for dance instructors and dance coaches to really think about why they do what they do and articulate that, not be embarrassed by it because it is actually the reason why you do what you do. And that will become, as Simon Sinek says, it becomes kind of like a beacon and a magnet that will attract people who also want to do dancing for the same reason.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. In our Brazilian dance instructor training, actually, one of our first videos of the training is, I call it the dance story. So I tell them to peel those layers to find what their dance story is, like what brought them to dance and how that affects their life, because that's when they are very clear on that, that's how they can start to present themselves to the world, right? In their messaging on social media, every way, right? And like you said, like, don't be afraid to be yourself and be authentic, because in this world where everything seems so superficial, like people are craving that, when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, and that's how you're going to attract your tribe, just by being yourself, right?
And I think it's important, Mariana, to acknowledge that that why will change over the
Mm-hmm.
years. It will change. Why you get into dance when you're 25 years of age will be different
Mm-hmm.
to why you're still doing dance when you're 35 or 45 or 55. And that's okay. It can evolve. Understanding why you're really in it at your age and at your lifestyle now. That's the
Mm-hmm.
critical thing.
Yeah, so true. So, your podcast, so the Fitness Business Podcast, has inspired countless leaders. So, what are some of the most powerful mindset or business shifts you've seen in the industry? And how can we apply those shifts to independent instructors or dancepreneurs building their own brands?
Look, I love that word, dancepreneurs. Did you make that up?
No,
I love that.
I wish I could take credit for it.
I reckon that is such a cool name. I think the big takeaway for me is the word strategy, is really understanding and planning out a strategy. And look, to be honest, Mariana, when I started in the industry and then when you started in the industry, compared to where people are now,
Mhm.
strategy was really bloody hard. You had to have a whiteboard, you had to have some probably wacky tobacco to help you think laterally or have a few red wines or whatever.
Mhm.
Now, with the right prompts, ChatGPT can help you write what your strategy might be. So it's a
Mhm.
lot easier as long as the prompts are accurate. It's
Yeah.
not the substitution. There's still a process. But
Mhm.
strategy is really the key thing that, you know, everybody I talk to on the podcast, everybody I talk to at Rex Roundtables, the mindset is all about strategy. It's not management, it's strategy. It's about people, whether it's one person or two people or the family. It's like, how do I get from point A to point B? And I need a strategy and a plan. The businesses that are successful and the individuals that are successful have a strategy. They don't wake up in the morning and go, oh, what am I going to do today? They've
Yeah.
already, when they wake up, they know what they're going to do. In fact, they go to bed the night before knowing what they're going to do the next day. So
Mhm.
I'd really challenge everybody listening today to think about what's your strategy for 2026, where, we're nearly into August at the time of recording this. So you can start to think about what you want to do next year. And really, you want to have that sorted by the 1st of November.
Mhm.
So you want to start writing things down by the 1st of November, which means August and September, you can think and you can just, jot things down on a sheet of paper. And then you take it to that next level in November because you want to hit the ground running on the 1st of January.
Mhm.
You don't want to be waiting till, let's say, mid-February when the kids are back at school. It's starting to warm up in Canada or North America because you've
Mhm.
already missed 6 or 7 weeks of the year. So,
Yeah.
like, that's 10% of the year gone.
Yeah. Time
So
flies.
it does. It does. And as we get older, it seems to go faster.
Yeah.
So I think that would be my key is
Mhm.
my takeaway is everybody has a strategy.
And I think that's so important that you mentioned that, especially because, dance fitness instructors, a lot of them, it's not their full-time gig, right? They do it on the side. And then over time, like they don't realize that it's still a business, right? It's still, there has to be strategy behind it because no matter how passionate you are, right? It gets to a point where if you don't have enough people coming in your classes and you're not feeling the impact that you feel like you're meant to have, it will start to get frustrating, right? When you're putting all this work
Mhm.
into like preparing your classes, learning choreography and all of this stuff, that there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes. And it can be draining if you don't have the right people coming to your classes and things like that, right? If you're not looking at it as a business and just like, oh, this is like what I do for fun. Right, like, so strategy is definitely important even if it is a part-time thing.
Well, I think even as a part-time thing, it's just as important
Hmm.
because when you have a strategy, you have a plan. And one of the interesting things about side hustles or part-time jobs is that different opportunities get thrust in front of us, and we almost get dazzled by the light and get drawn into that. But that might not help us get from A to B. So when we know where we're heading and we know what we want to do, then when those opportunities come forward, we can run them through the filter of, will that help me get to where I want to get at the end of the year? Yes, it will. Great. I'm going to look at that. No matter how much they flatter me, no matter how much they tell me and make my ego sound fantastic, it doesn't pass that filter. It's okay to say no. And I think that's a key thing for everybody, whether they're full time or part time. It is okay to say no if it's not going to get you to your end point.
So important, so important. So you talk about the importance of movement happening under the guidance of trained fitness professionals, right? And that's a big thing now with all these, Instagram trainers who don't have credentials. So, how do you think dance instructors can elevate their positioning and be seen as serious contributors to public health and not just as, dancers? Like, it happens a lot where, dance instructors get asked, like, oh, what do you do for a living? And they say, oh, I'm a dance instructor. They're like, yeah, but what else do you do? Right. So, how can they, change their positioning so that, maybe they're taken a little bit more seriously?
Yeah, that's a super tough one because in all reality, there's still lots of people in the fitness industry where whose parents are saying, "Well, when are you going to get a real job?"
Mm-hmm.
There's still numerous conversations that occur between the fitness industry and allied health professionals, or the fitness industry and the medical profession, and they just don't see the value in fitness or exercise. I think I'm right. I'm not sure all countries, but I think in Australia, when you become a doctor, you do something like 6 weeks on the benefits of exercise. That's it.
It's minimal here too, I'm sure.
So we are struggling to have respect at any level. But I really think for the dance side of things, I think you need some science and some research on the benefits of dance. And I think, whether it's the Brazilian dance or whether it's individuals in Ottawa or in Vancouver or wherever they're located, whether they can do like let's say a 12-week study in
Mm-hmm.
conjunction with a college or a university
Mm-hmm.
on the benefits of dance, and what that looks like. I mean, there's so many different modalities of dance as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to offend anybody by picking on one, but potentially you could do subsets of different types of dance as well. But I think that's a real key, is to be able to show the benefits, the science benefits of dance.
Mm-hmm.
And then that allows you to then sit at the table with health professionals and say, hey, we are a viable option
Mm-hmm.
for 50-year-olds to come and work out because here's the research that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Or 25-year-olds who have got diabetes, we can do that.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of studies, I don't know if you saw, actually, I'm pretty sure this study actually came out of Australia last year that showed that dance is the number one way to fight depression out of all forms of
Is
physical.
it?
Yeah. So I wasn't surprised, but it was awesome to now have that data to share. And I think I've mentioned it on maybe every single podcast episode on social media all the time, because I think that dance goes so much further than, the physical benefits, right? Like right now we have an epidemic of people who are just sad and lonely. And dance can, kill two birds with one stone, right? You get community, you get mental health support, right? And you build resilience, right? Because dance teaches you to grow and like make a mistake, try again, right? And I think that we need that more and more as a society.
I think we underestimate the loneliness
Mm-hmm.
and what impact that's having on our society. And like as you say, with dance, you're mixing with people, and then the other, and of course, there's the research about depression, which doesn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
But then, as you were just speaking, Mariana, I was thinking dance must also have a massive impact on brain fitness with
Oh, yes.
neuroplasticity,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
and
There's a lot of research on that.
so that's where you can hang your hat
Mm-hmm.
and start that messaging, because I know as a world it's going to cost us a fortune, people with dementia and
Mm-hmm.
Alzheimer's. It's going to be astronomical. So you actually have a good solution to that.
Mm-hmm.
And to be frank, I think I'd prefer to go dancing than sitting at home on my couch doing a Sudoku. Both of them are going to increase neuroplasticity, but dance is going to add that other element of socialization as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
sitting at home by myself. So I do think absolutely you've got a right to be at the table. You've just got to have some um, some people to really promote it, some ambassadors,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess maybe you need some TikTokers, some
Mm-hmm.
influencers.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So the fitness biz combines education and networking for the industry. So I love that. What trends are you seeing emerge out of those events and that could influence the future of group fitness and dance fitness?
Yeah, look, there's lots of conversations at those sorts of events, and it doesn't matter whether it's an event that we're a small event that we run in Australia or a large event like the Health and Fitness Association's conference over here, or IDEA or CanFit Pro. It doesn't really matter. I think there's probably a couple of key questions where there's lots of conversations, and it's what drives retention, where retention is how long someone stays with us. So this is just the same for your dancepreneurs is at the beginning of a 3 month period, how many of those people are still dancing at the end of that 3 month period? Okay. That's going to be our retention. If we lose people, that's attrition. But retention is measured in months, how long they stay with us. So we're always having conversations with how do we drive retention? We're always having conversations around where do we find staff, the right staff, good quality staff, and what does that look like? There's and then there's conversations that we talked about earlier, which is the PT world versus the group fitness world, and that competition as opposed to working together. So we see trainers wanting to train Mariana 3 times a week and burn up her cash 3 times as quickly, as opposed to training Mariana once a week, keeping her for 3 times longer and having her go and do group fitness because we know that's what she might want to do. So they'd be the big topics of conversation, I would suggest. It's how do we retain members longer? I mean, obviously it's also leads, but
Yeah.
that just ebbs and flows throughout the year. But retention, staffing, and then how do we drive all aspects of what we do in our clubs?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so important because I think for a long time, like the business model of a lot of gyms has been like, how do we get as many people in the door in January? And then it's like, we don't really care what happens after that, and then in February, March, a lot of people who signed up in January, they're no longer active, right? And then that cycle repeats year after year, right? Unfortunately.
We actually did a retention study in the US for Rex Roundtables, and we found that it didn't matter what month people joined, they still lasted similar amount of time.
Interesting.
It's seasonally, I think it would have an impact perhaps in Canada with the snow, but you guys are so used to that now anyway.
Yeah.
It's almost par for the course. But yeah, certainly it doesn't really matter when people join; they still drop out.
Yeah. Well, it's good that conversations are happening to fix that, right? And
Yeah,
we have to come together. And I love how you said, bringing group fitness and personal training together because it's not even just like financially, right? Sometimes, like, I'm a mom, right? I have a 4.5-year-old. And I remember when I was like an 18-year-old trainer and I'd have a mom client cancel, I'd be like, oh my God, just not a priority in her life. And I'm like, what was I thinking? Because as a mom, like just having time to work out 3 times a week, it's not that simple, especially with gyms around here. Now they don't have childcare anymore. Like, very few
I
options
know.
for that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like if your personal trainer is telling you you have to work out 3 times a week and then you also have to do cardio this many times a week. Like that's scary for someone who's like, well, that's just impossible, right? So then the person is just going to freeze and not do anything, right?
You're so right, and gyms don't have childcare anymore. But all of a sudden, you're now empathetic to all of those people that you
Yes.
weren't empathetic to when you were 18 or
Exactly.
20.
Exactly. What did I know at 18 years old, right?
Well, you knew a whole lot less than the 18-year-olds these days. They know everything.
Yes, that's true. All right. So, in your experience working with both US and Australian markets, what do you think instructors can learn from each other globally when it comes to creating impact and community through movement?
Yeah, again, I really like that question. I don't think one country does it any better than another. I don't think so. I think Canadians and Australians are a lot friendlier. So we probably are more welcoming and less judgy than other demographics around the world, shall we say. We're
Hmm.
not wanting to offend anybody. But I think similarities, there are more similarities than differences, to be honest. But I really, for me, it's just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. And I think there are little nuances of making new people feel welcome that I think that all dance instructors can do. When somebody comes in for their very first time, how do you how do you welcome them when they first come in? How do you farewell them when they're leaving that class? If you're doing it in a church hall, what does that relationship look like compared to if you're doing it in a commercial facility? So I think I think that's the big area that we can really improve on is that, and I don't mean this onboarding in the sense of 3 or 6 months, I mean onboarding that person as they walk into the class and how we can do that better to make that person feel more welcome. Is it introducing that new member to your rock star participant and making that
Mm-hmm.
rock star participant feel even more rock starish?
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden that new person knows someone in that class.
Yeah.
So I think there's a whole lot of area around that connection piece for new people.
And actually, that ties in kind of into my next question. So, dance often taps into confidence, joy, and emotional release. But from a business lens, how important is it for fitness businesses and instructors to offer experiences? So, like you said, like not just, coming in for a workout. And what does that look like in practice? So like mentioned, introducing to, a buddy, or is there anything else that could make it so that it becomes part of their life, something that they look forward to?
I'm sure people listening today would have seen at different stages on their news feeds examples of kindergarten teachers who have unique handshakes for the kids as they're
Yes.
walking into the class. And there's a couple of reasons that that's so cool. Is each one is unique. Each is quite special. But there is the oxytocin of touch as that person comes in. And I remember seeing when Orange Theory first came to market that they would high five everybody as they walked into a class and they would high five as they walked out of the class. So I guess one of the things that I really want to challenge everybody listening today is what can you do as your participants walk into your class or walk out of your class that is 100% unique to you?
Yep.
What does that look like? What does that behavior look like? It doesn't have to be a touch-based behavior, although that will help in the relationship and the connection piece. But what would that look like? And to me, that is a clear differentiator, is coming in and Mariana high fives me. And when I go in and I do John's class, he toe taps me. And when I go into Petra's class, she does nothing. Whose
Mm-hmm.
class am I going to go to? Well,
Yeah.
Mariana and Peter's class is well ahead of Petra's class.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is where I would start. But really, differentiation for many of the listeners today will be the experience that they create that begins from the car park of the studio into the studio
Mm-hmm.
and then home. Plus, whatever they can do to keep that connection piece between dance sessions as well, whether that's a Facebook group or
Mm-hmm.
whatever that looks like. They're the keys for me around that differentiation.
Yes, I agree. And also, yeah, like you said, leveraging social media and somehow creating challenges and things like that, right? That keeps them still, feeling involved in that community, even on the days in between classes, right?
100%. That's the key. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Um,
So, my last question. So, you're clearly driven by a strong personal why. So, your
mhm.
daughter and the next generation. So, how can fitness professionals, especially those in dance, stay connected to their own deeper why when the business side feels overwhelming? So, talk a little bit about, your daughter and how everything started for you.
Well, I guess, when I first started in the fitness industry, go back to where we started our conversation today. I was
Hmm.
passionate about health and fitness. I didn't really know why, but I was
Hmm.
passionate about it. And then I opened a couple of gyms and loved that and wanted to have a positive impact, I guess. But then when I
Hmm.
had a daughter, I was like, okay, everything kind of changes now when you have kids, as you know.
Yep.
And probably many of your listeners know your
Hmm.
life changes with kids and your outlook changes. And as I look at the world now with an aging, fattening, sickening population, we're going to be keeping those people alive. And unless they do something like exercise or movement, whatever word you want to use, then the governments are going to be paying money to keep these people healthy and alive, which means my daughter doesn't, and your daughter,
Yes, daughter too. Yes.
yeah, they don't grow up in a world that we grew up in because the governments are spending money not on resources to make our lives better. They're
Hmm.
spending money on resources to make everyone else's lives just healthy or longer. So for me, I get a reminder of my why every day when I look at my daughter. It's
Hmm.
an it's like, huh, yeah. That's why I do what I do. To be honest, I watch the Simon Sinek video, Start With Why. I watch that every year at the beginning of every year just to remind me of why I do what I do and how important it is. I guess I was kind of nervous, maybe. Nervous. I'm not sure if that's the right word. I certainly wasn't ashamed. I'm trying to think of the right word. Nervous, embarrassed, didn't think it was relevant to really broadcast why I do what I do. And then the more I watched that Simon Sinek video, the more I went, "Oh, screw it. It's why I do what I do. I'm going to tell
Yeah.
people. Um, and the more I did it, the more work I got, the more people went, "Oh, I
Mhm.
really like that." And it's different. I've never heard anyone say that. So for me, it's a critical reason why I get up every day, or why I might, sit on a Zoom call, on a wet and wild day in New York after 5 hours sleep. Because if I can help one of your people
Mhm.
who's listening to this get one new person moving in their community into their dance class, or have someone stay 1 month longer, well, then I've achieved my why.
Mhm.
And that's the way I look at it, Mariana. So I would encourage all of the dancepreneurs to
Mhm.
really sit down and analyze why they do what they do, what drives them to get out of bed. And oh my gosh, why would you get out of bed in Ottawa in the middle of winter?
That's a good question.
But something drives you, so you do it. And that's the why, and that's the powerful reasons of our business, and why we do what we do. So I really hone in on that, make it sharp like a pencil so you know
Mhm.
exactly what you're doing and what. And it's actually incredibly inspiring when you know your own. You don't even have to worry about what other people say or do when you're really clear on your own.
Yes, and that was like a full circle moment. We started with touching on the why and we're finishing with the why, and it just goes to show how important it is. And like the way that you phrase that, like I have a daughter and I had never thought of it that way of like, resources being taken away from her down the road because the government just can't keep up, right? Like with
That's right.
yeah, so that is amazing. And I'm sure, like you said, like that's opened up doors for you. And if other instructors can realize that too, like by sticking to their why, they're going to attract the right people, the right partners, the right collaborators, and they're going to feel more meaning and purpose in what they're doing. And they're going to help more people, which is, I know what they want to do. Right. So it's
Exactly
beautiful.
right.
Yeah. So I'm so grateful to have had you on the show today. And I just love everything you're doing. And yeah, I would love for you to share like different ways for people to get in touch with you now.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Mariana. Yeah,
Mhm.
look, I think if most people can hit me up on LinkedIn, although how many dancepreneurs are on LinkedIn, Mariana?
A lot, actually.
Right. If you're on LinkedIn, look me up, Justin Tamsett, and hit me up and let's connect on LinkedIn. My Instagram is at Active Management, or you can just connect with me on Facebook. I don't mind. My life is public, so
Mhm.
nothing to hide.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly love you to hit me up on LinkedIn. And
And tune into
when
the
Mary,
podcast too. Tune into your
oh yeah, the
podcast.
podcast is the Fitness Business Podcast.
Mhm.
Our focus is 100% on business, so you won't hear us talking about technical things and creatine and protein. It's all about the business side of things. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'd love you to swing by there, and if you can handle an Aussie voice and a little bit rough around the edges, then please come and have a listen.
Well, thank you again. I loved this episode. I would love to have a part two down the road and enjoy your
Absolutely.
stay in New York. And again, thanks for everything.
Thanks, Mariana.
Thanks for tuning in to the Dance Yourself Brave show. If today's episode got you hyped, inspired, or just made you want to bust a move, do me a favor. Subscribe, leave your review, and share it with someone who needs to hear today's message. Sharing is caring after all. And hey, don't forget, your courage is already in you. Sometimes you just gotta dance it out to feel it. Catch you next time. Keep shining and keep dancing yourself brave.